Good morning, I'm Tim LaCrasse. The table is set for the championship games, the Packers and Giants for the NFC and the Patriots and Chargers for the AFC. We'll look back at how they got here and preview both matchups in our NFL report.
Once again, good morning, I'm Pat McGuire. The Giants came through and really beat down the Cowboys last week. The Cowboys now 12 years in a row without making it to the playoffs. Will this streak continue? And what's in store for Tony Romo in the fourth quarter? Well, the Giants are heading to Green Bay. They're definitely going to be in the Super Bowl. Giants in, Cowboys out. We'll keep talking about it here on This Week in Football.
Once again, good morning. You're watching This Week in Football. As always, I'm Tim LaCrasse. This is Pat McGuire. As you can see, getting tortured today. Last week was the week that nobody thought would ever happen. The Colts and the Cowboys both lost after leading in the fourth quarter, and both had chances to win after the 2-minute warning. And oh, did we mention the Patriots won again on the week of the anniversary of the Dolphins' 17-0 season back in 1972? Pat, what's your take on last week's games?
Well, definitely the Patriots came out and they proved that they are the best team in the playoffs. They played extremely well. They really showed that they are the team to beat. With the Colts getting eliminated by the Chargers, I thought that was one of the best games of the year. Phillip Rivers and LaDainian Tomlinson both got hurt. The Chargers were able to pull it together and maintain the drives in the fourth quarter. Really played that second half very well and took control over the Colts. They beat them down. They really played extremely well. I really like how the Chargers were able to come out and win that game, beat the Colts. A very disappointing loss for the Colts. They should have won that game. Plenty of opportunities. Peyton Manning just made too many mistakes. The team could not pull it together. I thought the Colts were really underrated coming into this, but it just didn't happen. Chargers lucky enough to get into the AFC Championship game, but it's going to be a lot different story now facing the Patriots. Patriots should have no problem going over the Chargers. Green Bay had a really good game. I thought they came out, played extremely well, proved that they are the team to beat in the NFC. And, of course, my team, the Giants, coming out in the fourth quarter, beating the Cowboys in one of their better games of the year.
Well, let's start on the NFC side of the ball. Favre playing in Lambeau Field again. 5 degrees. It'll be 5 degrees this week. It was 11 degrees last week in their win over Seattle. Snowing a couple inches on the ground. Is he the best playoff quarterback you've ever seen?
I think so. I think he comes out, and when he has to get the job done, he can. Tom Brady's another very good playoff quarterback, but I think in cold weather, no matter what the condition is, when you're playing in Green Bay, I said it last week that nobody goes into Lambeau Field and plays like Brett Favre can. I think he really made a difference last week, and I think he definitely make the difference again this week.
Now in Seattle, we talked about it last week. Before the game, Mike Holmgren announcing he might be retiring from the NFL. Do you believe his story or not?
I think it is. I think it's going to be pretty true. We haven't heard anything yet, but he did say that after the Seahawks lost, and he said that was going to be his last game if they did lose. And so he hasn't made an official announcement yet, but I think we will see him depart from the Seahawks.
We'll go to the second Saturday night game of last week. Do you think David Garrott is establishing himself as a premier NFL quarterback?
I think he definitely has to be considered in the top 10 in the league now. He took this team. Jaguars really aren't a talented team. He played extremely well, outplayed everyone's expectations, outplayed the entire league extremely well. He played better than everyone expected him to. He really come out and proved that he can be a starting quarterback in this league.
Now, the Patriots, with this football team that they have on the field right now, will they ever lose, even going into next season?
Well, that's tough to call going into next season because definitely I think they can get through this season. I definitely think they're going to be Super Bowl champs. Not really a doubt in my mind about that. To go through I think maybe they'll get through a couple games next season, but someone will beat them eventually. You can't continue to have game after game go perfectly, have everything go your way. So definitely the rest of this season, Patriots should be Super Bowl champions. But looking into next season, that they could get a run going. They did have 21 in a row going a couple years ago. But I think the Patriots will get up to that number and eventually be beat.
Well, the Colts last week stunned by the injury-plagued Chargers, and are they going to recoup over this?
And that was almost as big game as the Cowboys losing to the Giants, but I really think that Peyton Manning just didn't take control of that game like we saw him do last year. Last year, he came into the playoffs, he had a fire in his eyes, he wanted to get that first Super Bowl win. This season, it didn't seem like they had it. The Colts really played laid back. They didn't really play as aggressive as I thought they should have, and the Chargers really were able to take control. The defense for the Colts did not show up, and I think that's what really made the difference.
Now, the question that will be answered Monday morning, will Tony Dungy stay as head coach of the Colts?
That's definitely a tougher call. I think that's a bigger call than Mike Holmgren because Tony Dungy is really thinking about retiring. They're trying to negotiate something. The Colts really want to keep him around. They're trying to negotiate. We can have time away from the team, time with his family. Tony Dungy's family already moved back down to Tampa, so the family's already at Indianapolis. It'll be interesting to see what Tony Dungy does with his coaching job.
Now, the big thing from last week that I saw, T.O. crying at the podium and defending his quarterback, Tony Romo.
Absolutely. That was ridiculous. I don't know why T.O. was crying. I can understand. I mean, the Cowboys just lost to the Giants. No one really expected to see that happen. Tony Romo really didn't have the best game of his career. Just really nothing went right for the Cowboys. But T.O. crying was just absolutely ridiculous.
You don't believe him at all? You don't think he's a changed man and he's actually defending a quarterback instead of calling him out?
He always says, the quarterback's my teammate. We saw him diss Jeff Garcia when he was in San Francisco. We saw him diss Donovan McNabb in Philadelphia.
He hasn't dissed Tony Romo yet.
He has not, but I think it's only a matter of time. I think one more playoff loss by the Cowboys next year and T.O. will just have had enough.
Well, Tony Romo, Wade Phillips win in will they ever win in their career? Well, we know Romo will, but will Phillips ever get this chance again?
I think the Cowboys situation is very interesting because they did very well. Wade Phillips brought them. They won the division. They played extremely well, but just they can't win the playoffs. And we saw it happen when Marty Schottenheimer won the Chargers. The year they went 14-2, lost in the first round. He lost his job. So Wade Phillips definitely going to be on the hot seat next year. Have to get back into the playoffs, and he's going to have to get a win. Otherwise, will be another coaching change.
The biggest thing on the Dallas chat rooms is that this was not Wade Phillips' team. Personally, I don't think it was his team either. Bill Parcells built this team all the way up to where it is this year. This is Bill Parcells' 13-3 team, and Wade Phillips, I thought, made a few key mistakes in the game against the Giants, going away from the run in the second half, which Marion Barber was clearly tearing up the Giant defense. Go away from that and put the ball in Tony Romo's hands when Romo was working it very well in the first half, but when it's only Tony Romo doing the work in the second half, you're not going to get a win as a quarterback or as a franchise, especially playing a playoff team. We're going to take a short break here on This Week in Football. When we come back, we will preview the championship games in the NFL Report.
Hello, Packers fans, all 5 of you anyway. Don't know about you, but Wisconsin cheese is pretty good. So guys, did you hear the one about Brett Favre not being able to get into his driveway? Yeah, someone painted an end zone on it. Do thank you, yes, I will be here for all of the next 20 seconds. The best in your 14-3 glory, all you want, Green Bay, because it'll be coming to an end on Sunday. I know your old quarterback wants another ring before he joins the AARP, but it's not going to happen. It ends now, Favre. Dallas was the heavy favorite, just as Green Bay is the favorite. But I know how we win this thing. Maybe, just maybe, if we could get Jessica Simpson to the game. Yeah, that's it. Then instead of T.O., Donald Driver would be the one crying. Someone get on that. Seriously, though, may the best team win. The better team just happens to be the Giants. Bring it on, Pack. If that is your real name.
Welcome back to This Week in Football. First, we'll preview the NFC Championship game between the Giants and Packers. Tim, you seem to know just about everything about the NFC, but without your Cowboys there, how will this game play out?
Well, 4-degree weather at Lambeau this weekend. It's going to be tough for the Giants. It's going to be snow. From all the reports that I've seen, it's going to be snowing. Giants relied heavily on the pass game the other day. I thought with Eli Manning, even though he didn't have a great game, he didn't have a bad game either. I think there's going to be a little bit more turnovers to the Giants this week. They're going to have to really put the ball in Brandon Jacobs and Bradshaw's hands. Fumbles are caused a lot in the snow, and as we saw last week with Ryan Grant for the Packers, he fumbled in the Packers' first 2 drives. And I think Brandon Jacobs the other day, he was really standing up. He was standing up tall a little bit more than he usually does against the Cowboys, and he's got to learn to cover the ball a little bit more. And if he can cover the ball, it's going to be a fantastic game in Lambeau. But you can never count out Mr. Brett Favre in the playoffs, especially at Lambeau Field. He's 15-1 or something like that in the playoffs at home. Just about as unbeatable as the Patriots were this year. I'm fully expecting to be a Patriot-Packers Super Bowl this year. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely. Now, I think this is going to be a very interesting game. Both these teams, there was a question on whether both these teams would definitely be here. Definitely the Packers, a lot of people were doubting them going into the playoffs. Brett Favre has continued to prove people wrong. Do you think that this is his last season? Let's do 2 different scenarios. If they win the Super Bowl, does he go out on top?
I think if he wins the Super Bowl, he's definitely gone. I think he said all along that he wants to play in another Super Bowl. If he wins the Super Bowl, I think that's an even more punches ticket to Canton for his Hall of Fame ceremony in 5 years. even if they lose, if they get to the Super Bowl and lose, I wouldn't be surprised if he goes out because you're losing. You're gonna be losing to the best team in the Patriots. You're gonna have to beat the same team again next year, probably next year in the Super Bowl. Which, if you can't beat them this year, you can only get better, I think. And the Patriots give Belichick 6 months to really scout out some teams, and you'll be in some trouble. So I think he goes out either way, as long as they get past the Giants.
If they don't get past the Giants, he stays?
I think he stays if they don't get past the Giants, but personally, I think it's highly unlikely. Ryan Grant's performance last week, 2 fumbles in the first 2 drives that we said, but after that, he's covered the ball more. He really plowed into the defense instead of letting the defensive hits come to him. What's the kind of difference is he going to make this week?
Well, he really had an impact last week. After the first 2 fumbles, even my mom was yelling at the TV saying, take him out, he can't play. He fumbled twice. Then he really came back and he played extremely well, getting 200 yards on the ground. He was a difference for the Packers, and he will be the difference in this game because the weather's going to be bad. There's going to be a lot of running the ball. Just as important as it is for Brandon Jacobs to have a good game, it's very important for Ryan Grant to have a good game. The Packers need him to find the end zone, have the same kind of game he did last week, and they should be able to come away with the victory.
A lot of criticism for the Cowboys this past couple of weeks with the comments that have been made to the newspapers. Now the Giants come out and tell all the Cowboys to get their popcorn ready, appropriate or not appropriate, especially going into a game against a team where you lost to in the second week of the season.
You're absolutely right, but I think it's just a little bit of banter. It's just back and forth. I think the Cowboys are definitely a little bit bitter that they lost the game. Giants are a little excited. It's quite a rivalry. Giants-Cowboys is a rivalry. That was the 3rd time they played this season. There's a lot going on between those 2 teams. There's really 2 teams that don't like each other. You don't see it too many times in professional sports with how things are now. But 2 teams that really don't like each other, the Giants and the Cowboys. You saw plenty of times during the game, guys getting in people's faces. Brandon Jacobs got into it with Roy Williams during the game. They're just 2 teams that generally don't like each other. So, yeah, when they have an opportunity to poke fun at the other team, they're going to take advantage of it. Maybe not the Giants really need to shift their focus now onto the Packers, stop worrying about the Cowboys. That's gone and done with. But definitely, I'm for it. I like seeing it, a little competitive banter.
That competitive banter, you said, it drew some fights on the field. Roy Williams, Brandon Jacobs, a couple of others, Antonio Pierce and Marion Barber going at it a little bit. Refs didn't throw flags on those plays, but they decided to throw flags on some other bigger plays and not throw flags at all. There's a couple of false starts that the Cowboys had that weren't called. Did penalties make the difference in this game, the Giant-Cowboy game last
I really don't think it did. It was interesting they never threw any kind of flags on the fighting penalty on the fighting at all because they did go on a lot. Maybe let 1 or 2 go, but it did continue throughout the game. They never called it, so I thought that was definitely an interesting call. But I don't think penalties really had an effect on the total outcome of the game.
Well, we got our last game. It's the only other game this week. It's the AFC Championship. The undefeated Patriots will host the San Diego Chargers, the beat-up San Diego Chargers. Phillip Rivers, LaDainian Tomlinson, and Antonio Gates. All 3 are game-time decisions. What kind of effect is that going to play on this game?
Oh, it's going to have an absolutely huge effect. Phillip Rivers has now said he's more questionable than LaDainian Tomlinson. LaDainian Tomlinson should play, should get the start, but he won't be at 100%, which is definitely going to be a huge difference for the Chargers. He is that offense. He's the main player on that team. Antonio Gates, their main receiver, with him not being healthy, it's only going to make things worse for the Chargers. Patriots are coming into this game. They really have everything's on the line now. They got to that 17-0. They've tied the Dolphins. Now it's just all about winning the Super Bowl. This season really doesn't mean anything or won't mean as much if they don't win the Super Bowl. So the Patriots want to win this game. They should win this game. This is a beat-up Chargers team. They really got beat up last week. That second half barely squeaked by against the Colts. But it does show a sign that this team can play a little bit. The Chargers, if they can play the same way, might be able to come out and surprise the Patriots. But I really don't see it happen. I see the Patriots really running away with this one, especially with the Chargers not at 100%.
Do you think the Chargers plot a wild card and start Billy Bullock instead of Phillip Rivers? Not only because Phillip Rivers is hurt, but also Billy Bullock's got some momentum with this offense, leading the team in the whole second half to beat the Colts last week.
That'd be a very interesting call. We'll have to see what North Turner does. Definitely, Billy Bullock did a decent job last week. He obviously was able to get the win, and that was a very big game. So definitely the Chargers have some decisions to make coming into the game today. Whether they want to start about an 80-85% Phillip Rivers or go with Billy Bullock.
Well, Pat, it's time for our WLTS Awards for the divisional playoffs. Who do your awards go to this week?
Well, Tim, my MVP, of course, goes to the Giants' defensive line, causing problems for Tony Romo all game. Got to give a shout-out the fourth quarter, getting the interception, really sealing the deal for the Giants. A great job by the Giants' defensive line. They are what made the difference. Mitchell really made a difference. Antonio Pierce made a difference. Osi Umenyiora, those guys really came out, had one of their better games of the season, and really made the difference for the Giants. Least valuable player, Tony Romo, Tim. Tony Romo, fourth quarter interception, 2 years in a row now. He's made a mistake in the last play of the playoffs to get to eliminate the Cowboys. Did not play well, not have the game he was expecting to have. Took a vacation all week. It really cost him. He did nothing right in the Giants game, and now it's 2 years in a row that he's cost the Cowboys a playoff win. Change has got to be made for Tony Romo. What about you, Tim? Who do your awards go to?
First of all, Tony Romo's vacation was 3 days in Mexico, paid by Terrell Owens, so it wasn't a week vacation. I thought he was very well prepared for the game. My MVP goes to Antonio Gates, San Diego Chargers. Played with a dislocated toe. Was only going to be questionable. Game time decision. Came out, played the whole game. I thought he was a big factor in the game, controlling the middle and really blocking the defensive unit to keep both Billy Volek and Phillip Rivers out of trouble, making some holes for LaDainian Tomlinson. My LVP, Patrick Creighton. Patrick Creighton, 3 drop passes in the second half. The first one really made a difference. It was an en route, had the ball, juggled it. If he catches the ball, he's got 60 yards of open field ahead of him. Would have been a touchdown. Would have put the Cowboys up 10 points. That probably would have been the difference maker. He dropped another pass late in the game, 3rd and 11 in the fourth quarter. Stopped running his route, and then by the time he realized the ball was going to him, he decided the ball is over his head. That's my MVP for this week. It's a tough week for me. Last comments, Pat.
Well, I definitely think the Giants definitely have a good shot going into Green Bay. It's going to be a great game. They have nothing to lose once again. They played last week against the Cowboys with nothing to lose and everything to gain. It worked out. Eli Manning came out, played extremely well. This week, same story. They have nothing to lose against the Green Bay Packers. They should come out, play with the same amount of intensity they did against the Cowboys, and some magical things might happen for the Giants this weekend.
I think win or lose this week, the Giants are the big surprise. Tom Coughlin will get an extension, and you might even see the defensive coordinator, Steve Spagnuolo, start getting some phone calls from some teams for their head coaching vacancies, because not only does he pray on the sideline, but he really surprises teams with both the blitz and the zone coverage. He did a fantastic job with the defensive core last week, not only last week but for the whole season. So it's championship weekend. Pat and I will be back next week or in 2 weeks to preview for the Super Bowl at the Sunday Lacey Township, and enjoy the championship game.
Let me out. Let me be gone.